Hi, everyone, and welcome to this AI Fundamentals webinar. My name's Madeline. I'm going to be one of your hosts today. I know that everyone is just trickling in here, so I'm going to give another minute or so for everyone to join, and I'll go ahead and get started in, yeah, just a couple minutes here. Welcome, Reese from New Zealand. Thanks for jumping in the chat there. We have a lot of you joining us, so it's always fun to see whereabouts you're joining from. I know it's probably going to be all over the world, so feel free to drop in the chat, yeah, your name, maybe your role, where you're joining from, and maybe what you're most excited to learn about today. All righty. We got Michigan, curious about AI, Mexico, Georgia. Awesome. Ohio, NYC. All right. Yeah, all over the US and all over the world. Amazing. All right. Awesome. Cool. Definitely encourage you to continue using the chat kind of throughout today. Feel free to drop in any questions there. And also, if you're using UpKeep's AI tools in a really cool way, feel free to share those ideas with the fellow attendees as well. So, a quick intro to today. So, today is the first of 6 sessions that are going to take place over the next 3 months or so, showcasing the different use cases of UpKeep's AI tools. So, this session, we're going to go through an introduction where we'll talk through the different functionalities of Nova and how you can use Nova to make your day-to-day in UpKeep a bit easier. Here are the upcoming sessions, so you can tune into the series or join for the ones that are most relevant to you. As long as you're registered, you're going to receive the recording. And we have Spencer joining us today. So, a quick introduction of your hosts. My name's Madeline. I lead our customer training programs. I'm here to make sure that you know the features you have available and how to use them. And I'm joined by Spencer Nelson, our staff product manager for UpKeep's AI features. So, Spencer, do you want to say a quick hello?
Yeah, hey everyone, great to be here. I'm excited to show y'all what we've been up to.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So then just a quick lastly, some quick housekeeping items before we really jump in. So today's training is being recorded and you'll receive the replay link within 24 hours. So if you need to step away at any point, don't worry. You can always follow up afterwards. Throughout the session, continue to use the chat, ask any questions there. We'll have a dedicated Q&A some time at the end to go through those questions. And our goal today is really practical. We want to give you a real complete look at Nova so you walk away knowing exactly how you can start using it in your day-to-day workflows. Here's what we have planned. I'll talk through where AI stands in maintenance today. I'll introduce Nova and a new feature called Nova Apps, and then I'm going to hand it over to Spencer for a live demo, and we'll wrap with that Q&A. So let's start with why this matters. So right now, about 80% of maintenance teams are still operating reactively. They're putting out fires instead of preventing them, and that reactive maintenance has a real cost. Unplanned downtime runs upwards of 50 billion a year across manufacturing and operations. And it's not just downtime, it's also the time spent by your team. The average manager is losing 10 plus hours per week just to admin work, data entry, writing reports, chasing down information that should already be at their fingertips. This is the gap that Upkeep's AI tools like Nova are built to close, catching issues before they become downtime and also giving your managers their time back. So let's talk about what this actually looks like, starting with Nova itself. So you can think of Nova as the AI that works while you don't. It's going to run scheduled tasks and audit your account automatically. Nova can surface critical information related to your Upkeep account, like data issues and operational insights, so your team's attention goes where it's actually needed instead of getting spent on scanning through everything. Nova is also voice first. This means that creating a work order, checking inventory, or closing out a job doesn't require you to pull out a screen and start typing. You could just talk into Nova. Over time, Nova is going to learn your specific rules and conventions across your team. So it's not generic. It starts to really reflect how your operation actually runs. And alongside the Nova tool is also what we call Nova apps. This is about giving you the ability to build the tools your CMMS doesn't have out of the box. You describe what you need in plain language. There's no coding required, and Nova is going to build it for you. So Spencer's going to show us what this looks like in just a little bit. But before we get into that live demo, just want to get a little bit more concrete on how these different features of Nova work. So there's four things that Nova is really doing for you today or can do for you today. First one is scheduled tasks. These are things that you set once, and Nova runs based off your schedule. This could be something like reviewing work orders, auditing your parts data, or flagging stale records. There's also the knowledge base. This is where Nova learns your naming conventions, your approval steps, your team specific rules, and applies them consistently every time. Nova supports email forwarding. So forwarding an invoice or a PO or a vendor quote to Nova, Nova can summarize that, log it, and turn it into a record in Upkeep without anyone manually keying it in. And then you have this hands-free field access. So technicians can use the voice to text to create work orders, check inventory, close jobs, all without touching a screen, making it much faster for them to navigate through Upkeep. And then onto the Nova apps. So, right, this is where you can actually build apps that support different workflows your team has. It's broken out into a three-step process. First, describing. So tell Nova what you need in your plain language. There's no technical specs, there's no complex requirements. Then you go to the building step. This is where Nova actually builds the app logic. This may be the form or the dashboard or the workflow based on what you described. And then lastly, you deploy it. So this is where you would review your app, you'd customize anything that you want to change, and then deploy it. You can also share it out with your team right away. So these are the functionality of Nova that we're going to showcase now. So I'm going to hand it over to Spencer to actually walk us through these features and what this looks like in the Upkeep application.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Madeline. All right. Can everyone see my screen, Madeline? Let me know if you can't see it, but it looks like Upkeep work orders.
Yes, we can see it.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, cool. So, one thing I just kind of want to highlight here at the top, if you've been with Upkeep for a while, you've maybe noticed just recently that we've made some changes to the way you sort of navigate to Nova. So Nova kind of has its own section here on the left now that breaks into three parts, and I'm going to kind of cover all three in order. So the first thing I'm going to do is cover chat. If y'all have been with Upkeep and you're tuning in, you probably use Nova at some point or another. But the way I like to think about Nova is like it is your personal assistant inside of Upkeep that like both sees all of your data and can take action across anything. So, I can ask Nova something like, can you give me a summary of work orders that are assigned to me and due today? I want to know, like what my day looks like. So if I'm someone who's kind of coming in and starting my shift, I can run a prompt like this, or ask anything I want really, and like with Nova, it's kind of like the limits of what it can do is really just the limits of like your imagination and what you can imagine. So here I've got like these five work orders. They're all assigned to me. I've got like a summary of it. Obviously, this is getting data for me, but I could, take this and add some action to it too. So I could say something like, cool, I'm going to go ahead and start work order 100. Can you move that to in progress and just leave a comment on the work order saying, that I'm starting the work. So here again, instead of just getting data out of Upkeep, I'm actually using Nova to control what's happening inside of Upkeep. So we're going to get that work order status changed. We're going to have an activity. Um, Give me a link to the work order so I can view it. And let's see if this works. Of course, if you want to find the work order itself, you can go back into Upkeep, or you can ask Nova to just give you a link. Let's see. I'm hopeful this works. The other thing I'll highlight, and I'll just create a new tab for this while Nova tries to figure that out. The other thing I'll highlight is you can access Nova throughout the application itself by clicking on this Ask Nova button right here. And in this case, Nova actually knows like what page you're on. So, in this case, if I were like on the work order page, I could say, um, log 5 hours of labor on this work order. So, no, now I can sort of like see the work order itself. I can ask Nova to do something. Nova understands, what page I'm on. Great, logged that. Let's go over to our time here, and boom, we've got our 5 hours of work starting here. If we go back over here, work order 100. Fantastic, cool. So I asked Nova to kind of generate again here this work order. So I opened up that link, and then here, so a comment got left. Let's see, it should be in progress. It is in progress. All right, so cool. Nova is kind of doing that, and of course, like this is one example, but you could take this and maybe you want to do something like um, give me a history of the. Oh, there is no asset on this particular work order, huh? Okay. Oh yeah, give me the history of the asset air handler number two. I kind of want to know like what has been done on that work order or on that asset before. So it can be work orders. You can ask about assets. You can ask Nova to create PMs for you. You can ask it to generate a purchase order, pull part information, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so in this case, I could get a summary of one linked work order, pull up a file. So yeah, you can kind of keep pulling on this. Again, the way to think about Nova is like it knows everything about your Upkeep account and it can kind of do pretty much anything you want inside of Upkeep. So we're seeing a lot of benefits here, ranging from, just sort of this like day to day, like shuffling work orders, changing due dates, scheduling, to like trying to find trends in like, your work order history, to rebalancing, schedules, to, looking at parts that are out of stock and then, trying to kind of maintain uh, data integrity across all of your parts, assets, locations, things like that. So, anyways, this is Nova. This is kind of the very base the base level of how we approach AI and intelligence at Upkeep. But what we've found over our sort of like year or so building Nova is that certain things that people want to do, we find that people want to do the same thing every day, week, month, right? Every morning, maybe we want some sort of review of that day, and rather than having to ask people, hey, every morning you got to go to Nova and like paste in this prompt. What if you could run a prompt on a schedule? So we have this feature now called scheduled tasks. Scheduled tasks, the way to think about it is truly just imagine that you send a prompt to Nova, but it sends on a schedule and it sends the same prompt every time, and you don't have to send that prompt, right? It's working in the background for you. So, for example, let's take a look at this daily work review. So I've got a daily work review. It runs every day at 9 a.m. And this is the prompt, right? Take a look at incomplete work orders, how it needs to get done today. If anything's on hold, generate a summary of why it's on hold and what I can do to move it off hold. I've also hooked up my Nova to my email address, so I have it sending me an email summary to my email address because I may or may not come check this. But here in every scheduled task, you also sort of see a summary of every run. So this morning's run, I got an email, which I'll pull up here in just a sec to show y'all, but 90 incomplete work orders, highlighted what's due today. This does match kind of what we just looked at in our previous prompt. And then this on hold summary included. Um, Work order 062 inspect and service. It's marked on hold, but there's no sort of explicit reason. Um, Include recommended what needs to get done today. Okay, so in this case, maybe for this we just need to like ask the person assigned to this why it's on hold. Let me for a sec here grab my email. All right, pull that over. Um, okay, here we go. Sorry, I had accidentally archived this email, but okay, so I got this email in my inbox this morning, incomplete work orders for review today on July 14th. So I got kind of this summary when it got delivered at 9 a.m. in keeping with my schedule here. 9 a.m. Again, a summary of what's going on for the day, the 5 work orders assigned to me, this on hold work order, and what we can do. Ask the assignee to document the blocker, verify whether it's on hold, et cetera, et cetera. So I got this email delivered. I also then will show here kind of another use case is a weekly stock report. So I have this running, maybe every Monday to just look for parts that are out of stock in my account, including excluding non-stock, and then create a new PO to replenish those parts to the max. And again, I have this sending an email summary to me. So you can see this only is going to run every week, but it did run yesterday at 3 p.m., which is kind of in keeping with my schedule. And it did create, a handful of purchase orders. It's telling me about its replenishment logic. And here again, if I pop into my inbox, I've got my out of parts stock review summary that was sent at 3 p.m. yesterday. So these scheduled actions are a great way to sort of have Nova operating on these sort of the types of tasks that need to happen on a recurring basis. Anything that you find yourself doing every day, every week, every month. We're seeing things like reliability reviews. We're seeing things like reassigning work orders at the end of the week. We're seeing things like a weekly report of like time logged against your work orders, delivered Friday afternoon, that kind of stuff. Again, anything that Nova can do, you can kind of set that on a scheduled task and then have it running for you. Okay, and then the kind of last iteration of what I want to show here is our newest feature inside of Nova. Which is called custom apps. And what we found for custom apps is that, like, hey, it's great that Nova can sort of do things, but many people, want to still interact with a sort of standard interface. And inside of UpKeep, like UpKeep has certain features and work orders, but of course, not every single feature we have matches like exactly what people want to see. And we get, on the product team, we're getting feature requests all the time. I'm sure some of you on the call here have sent feature requests in one way or another to UpKeep. And what we really want to do is kind of put that roadmap back into your hands and give you all the ability to actually build your own workflows and dashboards like directly inside of UpKeep that match exactly how you want things to be laid out. So now you can ask Nova to build a custom app, and that custom app can kind of do anything. So I'll take an example here, create an app, and rather than that, I'll say, I want to see an app that shows me um, all all work orders that have a timer currently running on them, and then like who started the timer on that work order, and then has some button where I can just like press a button to send a comment on that work order, nudging the user to stop their timer. I highlight this because it's a use case that funnily enough like has come across my desk a handful of times where people start timers on their work orders, they forget to turn them off, and then they end up logging hundreds of hours against a work order that really only took like 20 minutes. And so the data kind of starts to get thrown off. So people have asked many times, like, hey, can we just get some like high level view of like all running work order timers in our account so that we can kind of help our team manage that. So now the answer, is you can do that and you can build it inside of Upkeep. I'll let this one build for the sake of time. I'll show a version of this that I've already built here. And I will get this refreshed, running timers. But as you see here, so once you kind of ask Nova, automatically, if you tell it you want to build an app, it's going to kind of slide in this preview area on the right, and it is like hard at work. And for those who are technical here, like Nova is like writing real code. Like what you've built here is a real software application that runs actually without any AI. So if you guys are keeping an eye on your sort of like upkeep credits, using an app will not consume your credits. This is a great way to get insights without having to consume, all of your credits for Nova. But here I've got my running timers. I can see work orders with 2 active timers. Okay, robot arm sensor, great. Timer started by Spencer. And I can send a nudge straight from here. Maybe I'll do something like, please stop your timer. And I'll send that nudge. Once you build an app, you can keep iterating on top of it. So maybe I'll say something like, hey, I want each work order to actually be a link to the work order itself. So I can click off, oh, you already did that for me. All right, Nova actually already did it. So I can click into that work order. And let's just go here. Okay, great. Look, I've got my please stop your timer. That nudge did send. So I was able to actually do things inside of Upkeep, but from this new interface that I have built, in quite literally three minutes here, and with one prompt. And of course, you can take this app and continue to tune it. You can ask for it to change. You can say like, I want to use some different colors. Maybe can you use some orange instead of blue? I'm a fan of orange. I also don't need that filter. And I'd like for you to change the title of this app to just be work order timer review. So editing an app is as easy as just telling Nova what you want to be different about it. Once you're sort of happy with the way an app is working, you can save that version. And what saving a version does is it sort of like creates a checkpoint of that app at that time, so that if you continue to play with it, make changes, and maybe you get to a state where you're not actually thrilled with the way it's working, you can sort of come back to some other version of that app. So, I've got version 1 now. Current draft, if I go back to, you know what, forget orange, I like green. So now if I want like a green version of this, I'll be able to return to version 1, which is my orange version, the sort of first time I saved this, and I'll show that in just a sec. The other thing I'll highlight here as this is building is when you do access any given app, you come to this custom apps area. Here's the work order timer review. Just for fun, I'll show you all another one that I've built, which is my asset downtime monitor, which shows me sort of availability percentages, how many assets are not available, what those assets are, some downtime stats by asset and category. I can take this app and I can share it. Sharing it then makes it visible to other users. I can either share it with direct users, so Amit can access now this app, but only Amit, or I can this app's already enabled. I can enable sharing across my entire organization, so that anyone who comes to my account can come into the My Apps area, and they would be able to see this downtime overview app. This is a great way to actually, share the insights across your team, share dashboards, or share, an app that, allows you to have these work order timer reviews. Got it. Okay, cool. For the sake of time, I think I'll pause. Madeline, do we have any questions to cover in the chat?
Yes, a couple questions. One from Christopher. Is there an app library or will there be the access to pre-built apps through Nova Apps?
Is there an island? Yes, that's a great question. At this exact moment, there's not a library, but we are working on building a library of apps that sort of we will curate and we'll build, and I think we'll be kind of on the lookout for cool apps that our customers share with us, so that y'all can kind of have like a starting point as opposed to just being met with that blank screen. So stay tuned for the library.
Awesome. And then can you talk a little bit about Nova credits and
Yes. Yes.
how customers can kind of track their credits with Nova?
Yeah, 100%. So a credit is basically just like the way that you sort of use AI in Upkeep. It sort of monitors, it keeps track of your usage. So you can see here, I've got this like little credit bar. It says 33% credits remaining. Credits reset every month. Every user gets an allotment of credits. It depends on the plan you're on with Upkeep, how many sort of credits are in your bucket. When you run out of credits, you will not be able to talk to Nova anymore. You will not be able to run scheduled tasks, but you can purchase more credits from us here by going to your billing section, and you can sort of purchase buckets of credits in any sort of denomination here. Um, you can also go here and just kind of see like roughly how your credits are being consumed. So you can see here, this is a kind of a running list of like every single action I've taken in Nova. So you can see on average, most things I'm doing cost me, somewhere between like 1 to 4-ish credits with, some of my bigger builds taking closer to 10 credits, some of my smaller things taking, point 0.19 credits, etc. So you can always kind of go see what's going on here with your credits. Once you do purchase new credits, you purchase sort of a bucket of credits. Those get added to your account and they can be used by anyone. And the purchase credits do not expire. They just kind of roll over indefinitely until you've used them all up. But again, your monthly credits reset on the first of every month. So for example, I'm on our enterprise plan, so I've got 1,000 credits, which for reference, as someone who uses Nova quite a bit, probably more than most people, I just ran out of credits yesterday, about halfway through the month, and that's with me spending a lot of time building apps and doing some testing kind of thing. So yeah, that hopefully that answers some questions about credits.
Awesome. Do you have context on like how Nova is powered, like the AI model that
Yeah,
powers Nova?
yeah, totally. So we kind of have a mix of models being used under the hood. I think part of, what we do is we're constantly updating, Nova's access to various LLMs and using different LLMs to do different things. Different models are better at accomplishing, different types of tasks. In general, we stick with the we've been really enjoying the OpenAI family of models. So I can tell you that the Gemini, we're not using Gemini Brook to build apps here, but we love your feedback. Obviously, like that's a thing that we want to continue to tune together. But if you did notice when you're building apps, if I could come back here, you can always share feedback. So please, like if you guys go in and you build apps and things aren't working, we'd love to hear about the things that are working, but particularly it's very helpful to know the things that aren't working. So we would love it for you to take 2 minutes. If all you can leave is a star, that's great. We look into it from there. But if you can leave us feedback, that's incredibly helpful. We are every day tuning, the models, the way we use those models to make Nova better and better for you all.
Awesome. And I have one question, Spencer, just in our last minute here. Are there any limitations to what the Nova apps can do?
Yeah, that's a good question. The answer is I am sure yes. It's but and I say that just because I think we probably have some people who have really interesting ideas and you may run into limitations. In general, though, like whatever you can do in Upkeep, you should be able to build an app that can do it. What you won't be able to do is like build an app that does something like on the whole new. So, for example, like if you can't create an app for a brand new like object in upkeep. I'm struggling to come up with like a good example here, but let's say you wanted some sort of new concept altogether of like inspections. Maybe that's like well, we have inspections here for fleet, but you can't do something that's like totally net new to upkeep. What you can do is like build an app that reimagines the way upkeep works. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense to y'all. But you can, reimagine the way upkeep works, but you can't reinvent, what a work order is. Upkeep still, a work order has to have the same fields on it and so on and so forth.
Awesome. Thank you, and thanks for walking us through those different features. I'm gonna steal the screen back from you. All right. Well, yeah, so before we wrap, kind of here's some next steps for you all. I'd encourage you to explore Nova if you haven't already. Go ahead and try some of the prompts that Spencer reviewed, and get into the Nova apps and try building your own. Our next AI fundamentals session is going to focus more on automating maintenance workflows. So if you want to go deeper into the automations available through Nova, tune into that next session in a couple weeks. But thank you everybody for your time and for joining us today. We hope you have a good rest of your Tuesday.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.